Let's set up quality of service so you can have the best online gaming experience possible. So DumaOS is a multi-layered system, all working together to keep your ping as low as possible so that you have a smooth online gaming experience. Quality of service is just one of those systems working together in tandem with others to help keep everything smooth. So quality of service is actually kind of complicated. Hopefully, one day, maybe in the far future, you'll be able to just plug in your DumaOS router and it'll just take care of everything for you. Every time you plug in a new device, it'll recognize it and just deal with the quality of service stuff. That would be great. Unfortunately, we're not there quite yet. So you do have to take some time to test things and see what's working and what isn't. Now, what's great about DumaOS is there's a connection benchmark built right into the system. And you can even schedule tests to, have it test during different times of the day. And that's great because, well, let's say it's the weekend and you live in an apartment complex like I do. Everybody's home, everybody's using the internet. Things end up being just a little bit funky when that happens. But then throughout the rest of the week, it's smooth as butter. So knowing that, knowing how to adjust and figuring all that stuff out really helps. And so let's just go through everything when it comes to quality of service, how I like to set everything up. It may work great for you, or you may have to tweak some things. Again, everybody's internet is going to be a bit different. You're going to have different speeds. You're going to have different ISPs, different equipment. You may have all the consoles that I have. Maybe you have some of the consoles I have. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm at tablets, phones, computers, a whole bunch of different gaming consoles, all of which could be on at once or maybe not. So I've adjusted according to all of that. All right, the very first thing when you're here on congestion control, what you really want to do if you don't understand what you're doing with each one of these things is click this little question mark box and you can just read through how this is all going to work. And that's for each one of these sections, which is really great. They'll give you tips and stuff and super nice. But we'll just kind of run over everything. Now, auto setup, this is a newer feature. You can read what it does. You can continue. Pretty much you can prioritize your ping or bandwidth, and then you can, once you do that, you can begin the setup. It works pretty well. It may be a little bit funky. I suggest just going about it yourself. Now, you got two sliders here. You got your download and your upload. Now, I know this seems super counterintuitive, but what you're doing is you're actually capping your bandwidth by sliding the sliders away from 100. So anything back from 100, you're starting to cap your overall bandwidth. Reason for this is, well, buffer bloat. Buffer bloat is caused by a whole bunch of different stuff, and I could go over it. I have in previous videos. You want to understand that stuff, go watch those videos. You'll get through it. But let's just say buffer bloat equals bad when it comes to online gaming, and a few different things can cause it. And really what you're trying to do is find a good point where you've lowered your bandwidth enough on both your download and upload where the buffer bloat is gone no matter what you're doing on your network. So you got Netflix, you got Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever, a whole bunch of things being watched, you got games being played, and that can cause a little bit of a traffic jam, so to speak. And so you're trying to just narrow that road down a little bit so the traffic flows a little bit nicer. So for me, that's actually 70% of my overall bandwidth, which is about 450. So you can see I'm down to 322, and I also have it set to always, right? And this is a big one for my household. So you got three different things you can do up here. You got your always, your auto enable, and then your never. All right, so always means these settings are always active. This bandwidth cap is always active. So if I want to download a game per se, and I'm not playing games, I'm like, hey, I just got time to download the game. I'm going to step out of the house, do some grocery shopping or whatever while it downloads. For that, I'll just click it to never. That'll turn off the quality of service system, and then you might get a bit of lag if you're playing. So that's why for me, I keep it on always. But then there's this middle feature, auto enable. We'll talk more about auto enable here in a second, but I don't actually use auto enable for my household. The reason for that is I have multiple consoles that could be on at the same time. Again, we'll dig more into that here in a minute. But my download, I've capped it at 70%. If you come back to this question mark, it'll actually tell you like 70% is a good starting place. Downloads really where you're probably going to have the most buffer bloat if you go do buffer bloat testing, whether you use the connection benchmark here or you're using other methods of buffer bloat testing. That's probably where you're going to get the most of it. Upload tends to not have a lot of buffer bloat through my testing here and in other households, at least in my neighborhood that I've tested in, seems to be very low, almost non-existent. So that's why you see that I've only got it dropped down to 99. The reason it's down to 99 is that just, turns it on and makes sure there's at least some room there. Keeps my buffer bloat really, really low. These two settings are going to be the things that you're going to have to adjust until you figure it out. And that's what I mean by using your connection benchmark, have scheduled tests, do some tests on your own through other methods that I've talked about in other videos, and really break down what's going to work best. This works best for literally all my games throughout all scenarios. If I'm playing and kids are on Netflix, Hulu, whatever, doesn't matter. I have a smooth online gaming experience. The next piece of your quality of service system is your flower. You've got download and upload, and then you've got your application allocation, and you also have device allocation. Big note here, these do not work in tandem together. It is one or the other. I prefer, and I think most households through testing will prefer applications. So what I like to do is keep these checked, and you can read what they do, and you can also question mark here, but I keep these checked and I go to application, all right? Then I don't do anything with it. It's super simple. You got your upload, your download, you just leave it alone. Now, if you want to do some testing with this to see if anything changes, do not do this while you are live playing games. Don't change any of this stuff while you're live playing games. It won't make the difference you're expecting. If anything, it can cause a bit of a headache and a couple of days while things settle in. It's a pain. Most households, and I would think this means like literally 99% of the households, will not need to adjust this at all. All right, just leave the flower just the way it is. It is doing exactly what it needs to do, and it works great. These options are here if you have lower bandwidth and you really need to, but I feel 99% of households these days aren't going to need to mess with this at all. So I don't recommend doing it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I want to test, go for it, but fair warning, some days you may be like, hey, it's working great, and then the next day you're like, what is going on? Leave it completely alone, all right? This next section is tied into this top section in a way. So we have auto enable, and what auto enable will do is enable the quality of service congestion control when it recognizes that there is a game being played. Normally, when you first set up DumaOS, this all devices is on, and it'll just pick up any DumaOS capable game. So you go play COD. Pretty much every game out there is recognized. I've heard of a couple that weren't, and then they quickly got it fixed. So pretty much everything's recognized. You go play a game, this should light up. And what it's doing is essentially giving you first in, first out, which means it's prioritizing that game before anything else. So even if you got people on Netflix, whatever, doesn't matter. It's always first in, first out. Now, as you can see, I've actually decided to put each one of my consoles in here. The reason for that is I have multiple consoles. And when you are playing multiple consoles at the same time, this all devices button will work for every console, but then you're kind of starting a fight that's not needed if you think about it. If they're all, think of it kind of like a Mario Kart race, right? You're in a race by yourself if you're the only console on playing one game, but your kid comes on, friend comes over, you have another console, that turns on as well. Even if you're playing the same game, you have another person in that race. You're not only, now you can be doing this whole thing where it's like, oh, they're in first. Now, oh, you're in first. They're in first. You're in first. And through years of testing DumaOS, it really does not like having multiple consoles going at the same time. You can have a really smooth game on Call of Duty, one game, and then the next, it's just like, what is going on? Trust me on this. If you play multiple consoles, you're going to want to add them. It's a pretty easy thing to do. You click Add Device and go through all your devices. I've already added everything here, so I'm just going to cancel. But if you were to, let's just say, click this unnamed device. Once you do that, you get basic and advanced. All right, I use basic, and then as you can see, there's a whole bunch of options here. Game console, if it's a game console, other things when necessary. You can do all this other stuff if you want priority traffic for these other things. Most gamers are going to want the console or, maybe the Frostbite engine, something game related, Division 2. Again, I've got all the consoles here individually marked. So my Xbox One, Nintendo Switch on Wi-Fi, the PlayStation, so on and so forth. As you can see, some of them have not gathered traffic yet because this is a more recent setup. So when I'm playing Xbox One X, for example, before I turn on the console, before I get into a game, if I remember, I click it on. If I don't remember, it's not a big deal. Honestly, the quality of service system, Flower being just the way it is, once you've balanced congestion control, if you have it on always, will take care of the vast majority of lag for you. You will, however, notice a small enough but significant enough difference without your first in, first out being on to, it's feeling a little weird. Maybe I forgot to turn that on. I'm going to go turn it on. Again, if you have multiple consoles going at the same time, just choose one of those consoles. For me, normally it's me and one of my kids playing. Of course, I'm the adult. I paid for this stuff. It's going to be me. So that would be like the Xbox One X, which I'd be playing on. And then I just leave the Xbox One alone because that's where he'd be playing, and so on and so forth. So quality of service is, it's definitely layered. And there's a whole bunch of ways to go about setting it up. You could keep it on auto enable, which again will just, as soon as, if you have it on all devices and auto enable, as soon as it detects a game and this little light turns red, where it's darked out right now, it goes red, then it'll just work for you and it will do your congestion control only when it's detecting the game. For me, I like the always setting, which does mean when I need to download a game and I'm, I want just the game downloading, I'm not playing at the same time, I have to come in, I have to choose never, then I load into my console and start downloading the game. So this is, again, just one of the multiple layers within DumaOS that help you keep your online gaming experience as smooth as possible. The next one up is Geofilter, and we're going to go over that in a future video. Last but not least, as I said I would talk about in this video, is the connection benchmark. You can do testing right here on the router, and it's awesome. So far, I've only ran one test. These are my results. Not great, but that's just the way my system is. You're really looking for that A+, under ping under load. You hit A+, you're good. Don't really worry about the ping or speed too much. You could, but really, if you got A+ here after running a test, you're fine. Then you're also going to want to schedule some tests. Schedule, you can hit the schedule button here and schedule it out, different, either one time or repeating. And I like to do it every few hours. And that test will start showing up in the test history here as they start to populate. But once you've done that, you can really, see what's going on the weekends, see what's going on during the weekdays, see if you really need to adjust. Once you got quality of service nice and smooth, again, next thing is the Geofilter. We'll go over that in the next video. If this video was helpful to you, please take the time to hit that like button. If you're new around here, subscribe. And as always, take her easy.